Hey everyone. So, this chapter marks the end of the fight with Mad Horiguchi, as he's called. And I can't lie, I have thoughts on this chapter, which is to say, the fight works for the most part with Taro taking advantage of Shin's ability of clairvoyance to dodge, in order to dodge like Taro's punches while Taro's still effectively landing his hits on Horiguchi himself. But there is this is one of those chapters where there does feel like a slight lapse in logic, at least for me, where when reading this chapter over a couple times, I started to ask the question, why didn't Shin think of this before? Was it just adrenaline, a heat of the moment kind of thing? Because regardless of how Horiguchi's little wrist contraption works, you'd think that would be the first thing that comes to mind in order to use his clairvoyance in order to dodge Taro's punches, while Taro himself he lands the hit on Horiguchi himself. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but this is one of those few times where it does feel like a little bit of logic might have been thrown out for the sake of the gag. Again, I don't. Again, I don't know why. It's just something about the way this fight was. The more I'm thinking about this fight between last chapter and this one, where it's like, yeah, something doesn't feel like it entirely worked here. Now, although admittedly, the gag at the end where Taro imagines killing Shin for mentioning his weight was pretty funny, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. Again, I guess I still kind of like the fight, but like something didn't really click, I think, as well as it could have here for some reason. I don't know. Again, I'm probably overthinking it, but for me, something just didn't work. I will say this though, for whatever problems I have in the fight itself, Horiguchi was more or less a very fun villain. Like having just from him having that wacky evil scientist shtick, he felt like a little like a Doctor Doofenshmirtz, but played a little bit more seriously. Like obviously, but from the perspective of Sakamoto days and how they and whatnot. Like I also really I also really liked the moment where he does have he. I also one thing I also really liked about this chapter is that moment where after the fight, uh, I like how Shin does have that moment in order to reconcile his past with the other researchers, where they apologize. They they apologize for like thinking ill of him and thinking ill of him and thinking he was a freak and whatnot. But and for Shin, it's no sweat off his back. He simply responds and saying, "It's cool. I like my powers now. I've always liked my powers, and even now he still does." So obviously reinforcing the point that Lou was making about with Asakura when father and son reunite, it'll be much more amiable than Asakura realizes. Although knowing Asakura, he'll still think he needs to apologize. It's like, yeah. Having said that, though, we do get confirmation that yes, even though Shin is only part of the overall plan, Kashima is still interested in Shin's ability of clairvoyance, meaning that, yeah, if Kashima is in fact connected to X, then they are interested in it for the sake of hunting down and destroying everyone who's associated with the JA. Like it's just that which Shin's power is another ability that they're basically adding to the pile of millions of others that they've acquired. Although aside from all that though, there's not really a whole lot I have to say on this chapter. It's fairly straightforward as a whole, and like whole like okay like despite my gripes, it's like despite the gripes I do have with this chapter, it's not a bad chapter. It's more so just the first time I felt like it felt like Suzuki might have played around with the logic of the fight in favor of gag humor, and I feel he did need to play this fight maybe an inch or two more straight, but with the opponent being a mad scientist archetype, I do get the appeal of going for gags as well. So it's like it's kind of that weird it's kind of that weird balancing that weird tightrope where I where you understand as to why as to why Suzuki had decided to in order to try to mix his usual style of action and comedy with this one, but it's almost like he needed to, for me at least, it felt like he needed to pull back a little bit on the gag humor and focus more so on the fight itself. As weird as that sounds, like again I'm saying this with the knowledge that yes, that this is kind of like a basically gag action comics, a gag action manga, so it's like that fact isn't lost on me, but again, it is that one point where I think he did need to pull back a little bit on the gags, a little bit. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Blue Sky, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight One, signing off. Later, everyone.